Biographies are detailed third-person accounts of another person's life story. It contains basic information about the subject's life, their place of birth, education, and interests. A biography may document relationships with their family members as well as major events in the subject's childhood and how those influenced their upbringing. A biography details the various accomplishments and life events of a real person, but it's more than facts and figures, as it comes to life with great stories told from beginning to middle to end. What is the purpose of a biography? The purpose of a biography is to share the life of another person with an audience. An author may decide to write a biography, finding the subject's life to be one that is worth writing about and deserving enough to warrant a biography written about their life. This could be themes that apply to life today in their life. Some authors choose to write a biography simply due to a lack of information on a captivating subject, or to update the public with facts that may be unknown or an existing biography had missed out. Biographical stories can be influential, highlighting the achievements of a particular figure, pointing out ways the subject overcame hardship, giving readers a sense of encouragement. They may serve as cautionary tales to readers, warning them on not what to become. What are the approaches that can be taken with biographies? First is the cradle-to-grave approach. This is when you put your notes in order, sort the chronology, and start work. Then one by one, tick off the following from your list: birth, family, background, childhood influences, schooling and education, early careers, personal success, professional success, setbacks, twilight years, and death. This is a conventional approach in Western biographies for centuries. This may sound easy. Yet a chronological order has its pitfalls. Expect gaps in the story and to be left with mysteries you'll never solve and conflicting accounts. Established causality is another dilemma, not only because it's tricky to prove links between particular experiences and later events. Strands of the story developing in parallel, encounters that only obtain significance many years later, and the after effects of major turning points all pose a challenge to the apparent simplicity of this approach. The second approach that can be used is the deathbed departure. This is different from the cradle-to-grave approach, since this approach doesn't start from the beginning but begins from the end of someone's life. Many biographers hold off checking the birth certificate by beginning at the end. Opening with the deathbed scene or the public announcement of the death is a big short variation of the cradle-to-grave structure. By contrasting a dramatic demise with humble beginnings, suspense and a narrative arc can be established. If full research process deserves a book of its own, or if your subject was hard to track down, you may want to put the biographical mechanisms on display. Documenting the process of biographical research also allows you to write someone's life story in the first person. By revealing your techniques and the problems you faced, you can mitigate for the inevitable causal leaps or puzzling gaps. Another approach is just make it up. Plenty of would-be historical biographies contain made-up stories impossible to verify. Given a biography's tendency to improvise with anecdotes and dodgy causal connections, critics say it's a kind of fiction masquerading as history. You can make a victim of necessity by augmenting the historical sources, as in Edmund Morris Dutch, a memoir of Donald Regan, 1999. Or else turn the practice of biography on its head by writing as historical fiction, as in Hercules Mena's Woodfall. If you aim to popularize a life or just to convey the atmosphere of the time, biofiction allows you to indulge your imagination and free the story from the structure of the historical record, change the perceived wisdom. Myths, legend, proliferating promise a glimpse behind the scenes and unmask the subject with a revisionist biography. Celebrities, public personas, historical or contemporary, can easily deceive. By deconstructing appearances and identifying just causes, you can add academic sobriety, as in Sarah Churchwell's The Many Lives of Marilyn Monroe, 2004. You can also throw caution to the winds with a thorough debunking. This is the kind of biography that likes to offend. You can do damage to the subject's reputation or allegations of immoral nature. You need persuasive evidence of a biography long since deceased, that or a good lawyer. Another approach is the life of the mind for a biography. Select a scientist or philosopher for your subject, and chances are you'll be writing an intellectual biography. Following the development of ideas across the life, biographies of great minds can play an important role in a public understanding of science. You'll also be looking at how institutions of cultural and historical contexts influence your subjects, how network champion or resist particular ideas, and how even the best of ones agreed with skepticism. Challenges include making the material comprehensive for a non-specialist and turning the genesis and complex thoughts into a compelling nature. One last approach you can attempt is covering one chapter of your subject's life, which is significant. Often, society values a life for a single episode within it. In History from a Poetess from 1943, Stephen Zweig calls these histories heroic and poetic moments, reducing a life course to a representative year or two, may depart from the genre's established conventions. As James Shapiro has demonstrated in 2 books on Shakespeare, it gives you the chance to focus on what was most important in a life, or at least to make the case. Collective biographies can do the same for groups. What are the most conventional structures used? The most popular way to tell a biography, particularly if you don't want to highlight any particular quirk, but rather tell a comprehensive story, is to tell a comprehensive story of your subject's life. Partial biographies. Some biographies don't attempt to tell an entire story but highlight one series of key events. A new story to tell, someone with a deeper story built right in. Write about historical figures, generals, poets, writers, entertainers, political leaders. Celebrities, the challenges to research the still living, respecting their rights, while also digging up the insights that people want to read. Rewrites on icons. Don't limit yourself to biographies of lesser known people. If you can deliver new insights, people want to hear fresh takes on even the most celebrated lives. Choose a subject for the biography you will do about their life. Find a subject that has an interesting and eventful life, and you will have more material to work with for your biography. This will help you to write a compelling, insightful, and unique biography about your subject. Consider what you aim to do with your biography. There are many biographies on celebrities out on the internet, so creating a biography that is different to the rest of them is harder than expected. Plan to write a biography that offers new perspectives, refreshing ideas, or has a different outlook on a subject's life. Get permission. Once you've chosen the subject of the biography, seek permission to write about their life. This is of utmost importance before starting to write and conduct research on your subject, because without permission, you could get yourself into legal issues without consent to write about someone else's life. This is also because it is respectful to ask, are you writing about someone else's life? Therefore, it's considerate of you to ask for permission from them. It is vital to show respect to your subject by doing this. This may not be necessary in some instances if they are a public figure or deceased. This makes the research portion of your writing process much smoother. If the subject is willing to be biographed, they may provide significant details about their own story upfront that will help make your writing about them more compelling. Without a doubt, do your research on them regardless of how much you know about them. An extensive amount of research is necessary to paint a thorough picture of this person. Use primary and secondary sources. If there are an historical figure, include information about the time period they lived in and how it affected the way they lived their life. Primary sources are first-hand accounts of your subject's life and are typically the most reliable sources of history. These can include journal entries, emails, interviews, or memoirs. A primary source can also be any other information the subject has provided, such as a personal website, Twitter bio, social media account, or personal bio. Secondary sources like magazines or documentaries can also be used if the information is proven accurate. List the main topics you need to find out and make you helpful notes about where you might find this information. List the research you might need to do. Make a list of what you already know so you don't duplicate any research. It is also useful in case you come across contradictory information. Compile a list of people you might need to interview and where they are placed geographically. Save your time loss if several interviews in the same geographical area or if you can manage your diary to suit theirs. Contact relevant interviewees and make appointments, prepare research notes and file them in an easy to find format, chapter relevant by interviewee or in date order. Find a way that works so you spend less time researching for information. It makes it easier when you come to write your synopsis on a subsequent book. Familiarize yourself with interview preparation techniques. Pre-planning saves you the embarrassment of having to go back to your interviewee to clarify a point or to discuss a fact missed in an earlier conversation. Conduct biographical interviews to get insights into your subject. Your subject may be alive or not at this point. If possible, reach out to people who knew them and experience many events you'll write about. This is not a free-flowing conversation. Remember that the person you're interviewing may give you only one chance about it. This means you need to know what to ask long before you ask it. As an interviewer, you are taking on the journalist role. Your job isn't just to transcribe what an interview says. They're not writing the biography for you. Your job is to know which questions are asked. Your job is to probe. Remember, a biography isn't just telling a story, but finding the fresh story buried somewhere under the surface. But the biographical interviews you conduct are going to form the meat of your story. If you're writing with an original work of fiction, this part would be like brainstorming, coming up with story ideas and the twists and turns that will keep people on their toes. But since you have to stick to the facts, your job here isn't to invent those twists and turns. It's to find them through well-researched, inclusive questioning. As a biographer, your job is to do more than provide a single point of view. At some point, a biography can feel like a strict retelling of events. You can start to feel like a prosecutor or defender making the case for their client. As a biographer, you'll have a point of view as well. It's inevitable. What's important is that you have the facts and the research to back up that point of view. Provide detailed sourcing. A biographer won't go on long tangents of their personal opinions without sourcing some research to back it up. They may quote a letter that the person in question wrote. They may quote someone from an interview. Form a timeline of the events you will follow. This will make the writing process of your biography quicker. Decide on the approach your biography will follow throughout, as reputation of your subject is important. Pre-plan your biography. Pre-planning is essential and saves lots of time spent on backtracking and rewriting. A serious mistake some biographers make is to lose sight of the fact that they're writing the story of a person's life, not a detailed chronological account. If a person's life is interesting enough for a biography, there's a good story involved. As with any writing, dull detail will kill the story you want to tell. Create a bullet point for every main theme that you want to include, which may correspond to one chapter. Write another bullet indented to the right for each different subtopic within the main theme, the different sections in each chapter. Do this in several ways. Chronological order, group certain time periods around a specific theme, thematic. Other biographers outline their chapters by themes. Start writing the first draft. Create compelling voice. In particular, you want your reader to form a clear sense of who is telling the story. Think about representation. think about representation. Whether you're writing fictional or non-fictional biography, how you present events or tell a story is a creative decision. Besides creating content, choosing what formative experiences, dramatic incidents, background details you include, there are different ways to approach representation, the way you tell the story. Decide on narrative style. Deciding on how to write a biography means choosing between many available narrative modes or styles. A fragmentary style of narration may suit certain subjects and contexts better than a linear story. Start writing off a great first sentence to begin your biography. It's a good idea to begin with a really interesting statement, a little known fact, or a really intriguing event. Avoid starting out with a cliche, boring line like Matthew Patterson was born in Finland in 1849, because these lines have been overused. It lacks originality, so avoid doing this if you don't want your biography to be what the convention is. Cliché lines make your biography seem uninteresting to the reader, so take this in mind. And make sure that your beginning is motivating, but it should also be relevant. It should be relevant. The next sentence or two should flow into your main message of your biography. Capture the attention of your reader. Continue the flow. Find more intriguing details about the subject and their work and weave them into the composition. Fill the body of your biography with material that gives insight into your subject's personality. Use illustrative anecdotes. This may be enough for the reader to get a sense of a key figure. Parent, lover, sister, or brother. Find interest in the mundane. How would you incorporate this in the biography? You could skip over them or show the interesting place within a wider arc. Questions to consider in your biography. Was there something in your subject's childhood that shaped their personality? Was there a personality trait that drove them to succeed or impede their progress? What adjectives would you use to describe them? What were some turning points in their life? What was their impact on history? Make use of transitional phrases and words to link your paragraphs and ensure your composition paragraphs flow. It's common practice to rearrange their sentences to create a better pace. The final paragraph will summarize your main points and reassert your main claim about the subject. It should point out your main points, rename the person you're writing about, but it should not repeat specific examples. Don't panic too much about editing or fact-checking. Just concentrate on crafting the story in an interesting way that will hook your readers. Take a break before proofreading and fact-checking your work, your first draft. Start editing after taking a few days after your first draft. You'll be able to return to work with a fresh set of eyes, which will leave you better to catch errors and see your work from a new perspective. Start scanning your work for typos, cut and paste paragraphs you want to transfer, and even eliminate whole passages that don't seem to play an important role in the story. It's the ideal time to fine-tune and fact-check your writing. Get another perspective. What not to do in your biography. Avoid hagiography. The term for the writing of the lives of saints also means to display a subject's undue reverence in writing. Plan the scenes and incidents of a biography the way you would build a character profile. Ask, what are the subject's desires, fears, strengths, faults, impressive moments, cringe moments, fictional lines, wherever necessary.